Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and of course, with our ever lovely co-host. There you go. Hey, Carissa, happy to have you. And so let's go ahead and get started. So, of course, first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, show notes, reviews, articles. We have a couple of recent reviews and a couple of articles up there that if you haven't had a chance to check out in the past week or two, then, hey, definitely go check those out. They're everything from smart lighting to an article about this whole thing with TikTok. And, of course, it's expanding to more and more Chinese apps, including WeChat. And I think even Tencent now, which is just a huge force in a lot of different sectors, is now coming under scrutiny. There's a lot of activity there, and hey, we definitely encourage you to check out what it is that we do. So today on the program, a full hour of computer and technology news, and it's tons and tons of articles. Looks like we have about 15 different ones, lots of different topics, and everything from gaming to policy to, hey, let's face it, Google Home, always recording every single word that you have. It's a bit sensationalized, so we're going to break it down. It's not as bad as it sounds, but it is pretty bad, and there is a reason for it. So all that and more here at Computer America. So all that being said, and by the way, we are going, Computer America is going to be on another podcasting service. We can't tell you which one because it's I think it should be announced here within a week, and they asked us to submit our podcast. It's the exact same one, so just available more places, but it's by some of the biggest names in the industry. So if you odds are, if you're an American, you probably do business with these people. And they're coming out with a new podcasting service. And of course, Computer America is going to be one of the first ones on it. So very happy to have that and looking forward to it. Now, with all that being said, let's do one more thing. And Carissa, how you doing? And how was your weekend? Wait, 1 second. And all right, start again. How are you doing? How was your weekend?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me better now?
I actually had you muted, so you're good.
Oh, oops. Doing good. Just kind of spent the weekend at home, played some video games, just tidying, stuff like that. Nothing too fancy, just straight chilling, pretty much.
Yeah, that's, and in the day of COVID, you did the responsible thing, and I applaud you for that, for living the introvert dream. That's what we like to hear. Of course here we did a lot of the same, and yeah, it's, there's an article that we didn't actually pick up, but I can just kind of mention it because the headline was along the lines of people are spending record amounts on video games, video game consoles, new PCs. Essentially, video gaming is huge this year, and I think that you and myself included are very much kind of an example of that.
Right. I was actually reading an article a few days ago. It was about the EA games The Sims, honestly, and it was saying that they've had highest like selling points like they've ever had in the last few months because of COVID. Like people just sit at home and they want to like play life, so they get their sim doll houses and they go to work and they do all the stuff they normally can't do. So EA's been having a really good time with that as well. So they're really feeling the effects of that too.
I have such a long history with The Sims. I love their games. I wish that there was, I don't know, even some kind of like subscription model where you got everything at once and, you didn't have to pay for all the expansion packs and things like that, or the DLC. It's, EA knows that it's a cash cow ever since they bought it from, oh my God, it starts with, not Mattel. They bought it from, do you remember the company that made The Sims before EA took them?
It's right on like the tip of my
I
tongue.
want to say it's like Maxim, Maxim,
Maxis.
Maxis. Maxis, that's it.
Maxis.
Yeah, and ever since they purchased that, there have been more and more DLC. Like, don't get me wrong, Sims has always had DLCs, but that's really been one of them. And I'm still surprised that there's not a Sims MMO, because there used to be once upon a time with The Sims Online, but yeah, they haven't come out with that. I'm not too familiar with the series. Does Sims 4 have multiplayer, or is it strictly kind of local solo?
It's local single player. There's rumors about, unfortunately, there being 5 coming out, and you can't see me, but I'm like smacking my head right now because I've already given like all of my money 3 times over for the last 3 sets of games. But Sims 5 should have, potentially, if there is a Sims 5, if the rumors are true, there might be a multiplayer feature, which would be interesting. I don't know how I feel about it, just because that's just something that you've done by yourself for so long, and like.
Did you ever play The Sims Online back in the day?
I was too young for that, and I heard it was not a good place to hang out. So like I just never got onto that. There were a lot of adults on there, and it got kind of weird after a while. That was my understanding.
That's true. That's true.
But that's anything on the internet, really.
Yeah. And we're not saying that old people ruin everything, but The Sims Online, really, in my experience, the thing that ruined it was not so much the people, but kind of the botters, making currency and things like that. It was an MMO before MMOs were actually good, and I think it still has a lot of potential. But yeah, it's dead. It's gone. Sims, hopefully not following suit. And Carissa, why don't we go ahead and start with computer and technology news and get on some other topics, if you're okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, and actually, before we even do that, I don't know if the microphone changed or if you moved it a little bit, or if it's possible to kind of get a little bit closer to you, but the audio. Oh,
how's that?
Much better. Sorry to make you do that, but yeah, we're good. We're good now. So everyone, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So everyone, our first story that we're going to cover is actually this one from the Register, and I was immediately drawn to it because of the headline, which we talked a little bit about. Whoops, our bad. We may have accidentally let Google Home devices record your every word, sound, and whoops. So obviously for everyone out there, we're going to do our best to try to not utter that fateful phrase to activate the Google Home devices, but let's just say that a particular company that's, well, and actually, the article is a bit weird here where they call it the Chocolate Factory. I can only imagine the Chocolate Factory is like code for Google. So they admitted that it had accidentally turned on a feature that would allow the home-based assistant that's in a lot of people's homes to actively listen and always record its surroundings. And this has only started since the last update. And there we go. So yeah, this has only happened since the last update from Google. And they said that it has to do with the new security feature. So last week, one of the biggest articles was Google bought like a 6% stake, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is a $450 million investment into ADT. ADT, of course, home security, and it's they were super popular a couple of years ago and even going back, but they've definitely been taking a hit with the rise of the do-it-yourself webcams and doorbells and security features. So ADT as a system has really been, kind of not doing as well as they used to. And this is where Google can really kind of help to catch them up by bringing in the digital assistant and using all of the different Google-based devices to kind of be that ADT security and have ADT monitor the service for you. It's a very good blend, but again, it is that large investment that caused, again, the software update to always record. And they say, and I'm going to take them at their face value, they say that this is a new feature that Google Home devices will, at some point, if you purchase security through Google or ADT, each one of the speakers will be an always-on microphone if you leave the house, and it will listen for glass breaking, it will listen for intruders. If you know that no one is in the house or no one is doing anything, and it hears some kind of suspicious noise or activity, it will alert the security system. So it's acting as one of those microphones that have been around for decades to listen for glass breaks or any loud, sudden noises, and it's going to be a security feature. But of course, it was turned on accidentally, and it was turned on in the latest update. And they said they fixed it. It's no longer going to be that way, but a lot of people have noticed that it was making recordings without the wake up word. So that's what happened. It was technically listening all the time, but it was a bug. And then I'll go ahead and just say, but Carissa doesn't think it's that innocent.
Nothing's ever that innocent, Ben. I don't believe it. But even still, like, are they just listening? Because it says they're recording every word, right? But then you were just saying that it's only looking for, glass breaking and things like that. So what the heck is Google doing if they're only supposed to be listening for glass breaks and stuff, and then they're recording everything anyway?
Yeah, and really that's the point of it, is that it listens for everything, and then if there's anything suspicious or out of the ordinary, which they will determine over time what is suspicious and what is out of the ordinary. I mean, it's right out of the box. It's not going to know the sound of your dog walking around. It's not going to know the sound of a loud bang in your home, or maybe someone plays the drums and there are constantly loud bangs. It has to learn over time what is weird and what isn't, and that's something that Google really excels at. Again, it's a security feature, but like most security features, it can be taken advantage of. So that was that article, and we're going to go ahead and put this article up on the website. There's a couple more stories here that we're not going to cover. Although I do find this one down here at the very bottom of it pretty interesting, where they're talking about Microsoft is winding down support for its third-party Cortana tools, in that I guess they had one for Apples. They had one for iOS. They had one for Android, and you could download Cortana and use her features in these other operating systems. Although I don't know anyone who actually used Cortana. They say they're going to keep her. What's that?
It was not good.
No, it really wasn't, and it could have been, but they tried to make her replace the search bar on Windows devices, and turns out people didn't really ask for a replacement for the search bar. So to try to make Cortana something that she wasn't, and also she just returned horrible results. It was not good.
She was using Bing. What do you want from her?
Yeah, and yeah, Bing. That's that was the issue. Now, with all that being said, though, they're going to keep her around, but I guess they're going to focus the artificial intelligence, the training, the learning on on Office products. So Office 365, the Word, the Excel, that kind of thing. They're going to focus on productivity tools for, I guess, kind of power users and who need to do a lot of documents or editing or things like that, which has some potential. I mean, I know a lot of people who use dictation when writing things, or would find that handy. So Cortana is going to live on. It's just Cortana is not going to be as front as she used to be at the launch of Windows 10. So
it'll probably be more functional that way, I think.
Yeah. Microsoft has been really falling behind. I would say that Microsoft was better than Apple when it comes to artificial intelligence, because Siri is garbage. And Siri, I'm sorry if you're listening,
Really?
but she's awful. I find no value in using that product whatsoever. But really, the best digital assistants are from, again, Google, Amazon, and I would rate those two as like number one. And then I'm sure that there are others, but Microsoft and Apple have been really trailing these other tech companies. So. Okay, that whole article done. Let's go ahead and continue on. And, we have so many different topics, so many different things that we could talk about. And I think we're going to... Oh, actually, I got the perfect one. If you don't mind, Carissa, let's talk about real quick. Let's see. I think I've... Here we go. Reuters. State Department... We're responsible for the Russian and Iranian text message campaign. I know that a lot of people, they think the government, they're super sophisticated. They have some of the smartest people working for them. They're 3 steps ahead. They're playing a different kind of game. You're playing checkers and they're playing eight-dimensional backgammon, whatever it is. You think that they are the smartest people on the planet, and they, they have very impressive people very impressive people working for them. Maybe this is the best way, but check this out. I think just about anyone could have come up with this tactic, and there are text messages. If you're watching the video portion, you can see it up here on my screen, and of course, if you read Arabic, well, hey, you can understand it. If you don't read Arabic, though, you are looking at a text message that essentially says, this is a worldwide campaign in multiple languages, but the text message itself was asking people to submit any kind of leads for cyber threats in the upcoming U.S. election, saying that we're aimed at building awareness internationally. So, Carissa, they sent out millions of text messages to random Russians and Iranians saying, hey, if any of your friends are working to undermine the U.S. elections, let us know. We'll pay you $10 million. Like, that would be almost as bad as just kind of standing on the street corner and just handing out flyers to anyone who goes by and says, hey, save the turtles. Oh, and also, any secret government programs that are looking to undermine democracy, go ahead and just let us know, And like, it seems so low tech, Carissa. Do you think this has any chance of working?
I don't think so. It seems kind of it's a little far-fetched. Like, I'm really shocked, honestly, that we would go as far as to develop something to be able to text people in other countries to do this. But also,
well, the texting
you're
part...
a Russian, right? And you get this text message, for example, and your neighbor's like, hey, I got this text.
Yeah.
Are you going to send it to America, or are you going to tell your neighbor to go into hiding? Like, where do they think this is going to work?
Yeah, I guess the real carrot here, the real thing that they're hoping works, is the massive prize that you would get if you lead them to these operations. Obviously, if you are in these countries and you are working on these kinds of projects or in close proximity to these projects,
probably wouldn't say anything. Just a hunch.
Yeah, and very clearly for Russia and Iran in particular, they are very authoritarian governments. They monitor, just like the U.S. The U.S. is very everything with Edward Snowden and everything with the National Security Agency. There are servers and data and massive data banks in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country, that house every single phone call, metadata, text message, like tinfoil hat stuff that is actually true. And it happens every day in this country. You can bet Russia and Iran are doing the same thing. It seems like they would probably have every single person who clicked on the link, let alone actually sent them information, let alone who actually might try to get the $10 million. This will not work out well for any kind of informant hoping to make that kind of money. To the article's credit, let's see, they say that this is a worldwide campaign in multiple languages, as we said. The State Department's comments come after an unknown number of people in Russia and Iran began receiving the text messages and posting screenshots to social media. Yeah, that's right. You know, the first thing that they did wasn't, oh, let me go look for those secret programs. No.
What the heck is it?
Yeah, they're going to post it on Facebook and go, hey guys, check it out. Look what I got. I got a secret message from the United States asking for information. It's crazy, right? Yeah, it didn't work out too well. So the campaign may have helped U.S. authorities get the word out about their reward, but they spoke to 5 Iranian users, so 5 of what I'm sure is going to be thousands, who said that they found the messages either bewildering or humorous. One of them, a developer who works out of the Iranian city of Qom, compared the text to propaganda leaflets dumped out of the back of an aircraft, which I was just saying, you know, just standing on the corner, just handing out random flyers. This is tantamount to the same thing. He said that he initially thought that the message was a scam. It was only when he opened the link, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you think something is a scam, don't click the link and investigate. That is... Yep. I'm sorry?
I said, don't click the link.
Yes, thank you. That rule number 1, don't click the link. Number 2, don't click the link. Yeah, that's really it. So anyways, it said that it might have been a scam. It was only when he opened the link that he realized that the United States was genuinely soliciting tips about election hacking via message. He's saying he just laughed. This comes on the heel of 2016. There was a lot of election meddling going on, which is still disputed, which is just mind-blowing because we know exactly what happened. 2018, there was some light propaganda going on, not as much as a presidential election, but there were indications that the U.S. forces were reported by the Washington Post to have mounted a cyber attack on Russian digital propagandists in an effort to deter them from interfering. And yeah, so in 2018, they have been taking on Russian, in particular, propaganda. 2020, things have gotten bigger. Social media has gotten all the more important. Advertising has gotten easier. The propaganda that we're going to start seeing is just immense. And I can't help but think that this campaign of sending out random text messages offering millions of dollars in rewards is nothing more than America's attempt at ham-fisted propaganda, because odds are this is not going to result in anything, and it's probably more, like they said, to get the word out that, hey, you know, there is $10 million up for grabs, and yeah, you probably don't want to be caught clicking on that link. So
then what happens, let's say, if there's more than one person that reports something? Do they have multiples of tens of millions of dollars? And then why are they handing it to people in other countries and not, I don't know, the people who are furloughed from their jobs and need like stimulus money?
So when it comes to so when it comes to reward money, I think it's very well known that this country's security budget is very large, very robust. And I'm sure that when it comes to $10 million, that is barely an accounting blip if they actually had to, if they actually had to pay someone $10 million, I'm sure that they could find the money. I know what you're saying, that that money should be earmarked for probably more relevant cases. And for all we know, that money is. But yeah, the $10 million will be found. Whether or not anyone actually tries to claim it, I think that there was a gentleman who actually tried to claim the bounty on Osama bin Laden's head when that was still going on, and the U.S. Department found a way to not pay that. So I'm not. I'm not an expert on this kind of thing, but I will say that this was, as far as surreptitiously going about finding informants, I've played enough spy games and I've played enough video games to know that walking up to someone and going, "Hey, want to be a spy for me?" really doesn't work out all that often. It's just not very sneaky. So there you go. State Department, they have confirmed they are indeed responsible for the text campaign. So I that one just blew my mind. I did not know how to take that, but I found it pretty funny.
Yeah, that's something. That's some news right there.
No kidding, which is exactly what we're doing. So that was story number 2. Story number 3, this may hit a little bit closer to home because if you don't live in Russia or Iran, then that last story probably didn't apply too much to you. But this next one is about the Xbox Series S. Carissa, which gaming consoles do you have? I know that obviously the Switch, I believe, is something that you're still playing with. But what about PlayStation 4 or the Xbox Oh my God, One?
The Xbox One. I haven't played either of those. The last Xbox I had was a 360. But there's a new Fable game coming out that I'm unfortunately going to have to purchase, which means I'm probably going to have to buy an Xbox. So probably pretty soon I'll be getting one.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of getting your console background because the new Xbox Series S, if you can hold off, if you can be, although I will say that because of COVID and because so many people are looking for these, there are actually some pretty good deals. They're hoping to entice people to buy these things, and now is a pretty good time to buy a kind of a less expensive Xbox One. But I will say that the Series S is coming around. And I'm excited to hear what you think about this recent leak, although a lot of people have been very, they said that this was obvious, and this seems to be more of a confirmation than an actual leak, because we have been assuming this for quite a while. There was an image of the latest Xbox Series S, the latest Xbox Series X controller, and the controller was available for pre-purchase. Someone got their hands on it early. They posted this image to social media, and on the little leaflet that nobody ever reads unless you're weird, they said that this controller works with both Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, which the Series S in particular was not confirmed before this. Carissa, did you hear about the PlayStation 5 and did you watch any of the keynote? How much do you know about the two different versions of the PlayStation consoles?
Not a whole lot. I didn't watch the keynote, unfortunately. But I know PlayStation is doing a lot of new stuff with their newer one.
Yeah. Really no big deal. The main difference, though, there was one for like $3, and prices are still fluid. We haven't had any real confirmation, but most people believe that it's going to be about $499 for the PlayStation 5, and then about $449 or whatever it turns out to be. It's probably going to be about $50 less, and it's a PlayStation without the physical hard drive, or I'm sorry, not hard drive, without the physical disk drive. So it's only digital. You have to download all of your games. You have to stream your games. You have to make room on your hard drive. If you play a lot of games, then you're going to constantly run into that memory shortage, or you're going to have to buy a lot of extra hard drives. But yeah, the real main difference is that there will be a version with a disk slot and one without it. And it's a cost-saving measure. So if you don't want to spend the extra money, if you're only going to play a couple games, then that would probably be the way to go. Looks like that is the difference between the Xbox Series X and the Series S, is that we hadn't confirmed there would be the same difference, but now this seems to indicate that there definitely is. And they said that they were hoping to announce it on December 12th, by the way. So it was upcoming. It was unconfirmed, but yeah, they haven't announced it yet. And they even had an earlier document leak that said that the Series S, which is AKA Lockhart, if you're really into this kind of stuff, will be aimed at 1080p and 1440p, not 4K. So to that end, it would have about 8 gigs of RAM, 13 gigs, or about 14 gigs, 8 gigs, 14 gigs on the Series X. So the hardware is a little bit worse. The CPU is underclocked and the performance on the GPU is a little bit less. Essentially is a budget Xbox console that will probably be without a disc. And this leak from the controller that was sold before it should have been confirms that it's not only in development, but it's actually going to come out, because they've already started to publish material with that written on it. So Carissa, if you're looking to get into Xbox, there will be a version that is a little bit less expensive and of course no disk drive. And that's the big thing. I mean, the next generation of consoles are going to be, I really guess that Microsoft is trying to hit multiple price points, maybe have one for $400 and one for maybe $300. And yeah, I don't know how important the disc is to you, but it seems to be we're starting that transition to move away from physical media altogether.
I both like and don't like that. I'm kind of old-fashioned and like having on my disc, seeing my whole collection and keeping them on my shelf and all that stuff. But I don't know. That's a little disappointing because, like, why? Just because it doesn't have a disk drive, why is it a lesser machine? Like, you're paying almost the same amount of money for no disk drive when you could just, what is it, a $50 difference for the PlayStation? I imagine
that's what we're assuming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just feel like these guys could do more for the gamers. They're kind of slacking. They're trying to just save money and not give people what they want. I don't think that cares about the disc thing. It seems minor to me.
Yeah, the disc, I would say that if you're someone who plays a lot of different video games, a modern hard drive, before you expand it, of course, you can buy bigger ones. You can buy ones that are from many different manufacturers and expand the existing one. But if you just have the base model with the hard drive that comes with it, you're looking at maybe, I want to say an average, of course, depending on the game, but an average console can hold about 20 games. And that's in their entirety. If some games, like the most recent Call of Duty, with all of its different updates and stuff like that, and before they slim it down, can take up as much as 80 gigs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So in some cases, maybe like 10 games, but in realistic terms, about 20 different games. If you play more than that and you want quick access to more than that without having to download the entire game over again, maybe the physical drive is for you. But if you can kind of plan ahead, think about it, then hey, as long as 1080p isn't a deal breaker for you, if you don't have to have 4K, then hey,
might just work.
Yeah, it'll definitely be cheaper. So there you go.
It's also a good thing for kids too, because then they don't have the discs that they, inevitably don't put back and scratch up. So you're not losing 800 games because they don't.
Now that sounds like personal experience. I don't know how tidy you were with your games, but I know that a lot of my games did end up in the wrong box and missing in a lot of cases. So
showing up in your toy box scratched up or something, yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, there's that story. Let's go ahead and move on. Tons of different ones. Carissa, I'm going to ask you if you had a chance to look over these. Did any of these kind of catch your eye?
Oh, the Xbox one did, but we already talked about that.
Well, okay, think about it. I have one more that I wanted to do. We talked about it a week and a half ago or so, and this is... So... 2 stories ago, we were talking about the Iranian-Russian campaign to get informants on election meddling very, very poorly. And she said, well, how are they going to get that $10 million? Turns out there's so much money that we have this new event that will be happening on August 18th. She's wondering where all that money went. Here's your answer. AI-controlled virtual fighters will take on an Air Force pilot on August 18th. If you're wondering where artificial intelligence has gone, this will be one of the biggest challenges to modern warfare that we have seen in a long time. Artificial intelligence has already become almost like a co-pilot in a lot of the modern jets. They will alert the pilot of different situations. They will alert them if there's any kind of, let's say, incoming missiles. They will alert them if there are any signals, if someone's trying to get their attention, if there are other aircraft. Artificial intelligence is already being used extensively to augment pilots so that they can be much more aware of their surroundings, and it will kind of filter the important stuff and the not so important stuff. It's, again, acting as a digital co-pilot. Now, DARPA is hosting this event, which again will happen August 18th through the 20th, and they said that it's an alpha dogfight the event is the Alpha Dogfight Trial. And if you're watching the video portion, we have a couple of different simulations here that you can see. And yeah, essentially, in artificial intelligence, controlling a simulated F-16 will be fighting a piloted ship, a piloted aircraft. That aircraft will be the only aircraft in the sky, but then on the system's computers and within the space, the pilot has to physically endure everything that happens in an actual dogfight, whereas the artificial intelligence still has to obey the kind of the laws of nature, but it's going to be completely simulated. So the artificial intelligence will have to determine where the enemy is, where the pilot is, how best to take it down. And essentially, this is the thing of movies, of science fiction. This is man versus machine. They said that the Department of Defense agency started the Alpha Dogfight trials to expand its base of AI developers under the Air Combat Evolution program. And they said that the purpose of the program is to automate air-to-air combat and to build human pilots' trust in artificial intelligence so they can fight side by side in the future. Obviously, if you're reading between the lines, the military knows, I think we all know, that artificial intelligence, obviously with the amount of unmanned aerial vehicles used in theaters all over the world today, it's much better to put a robot in harm's way than it is to put a human in harm's way whenever possible. And these artificial intelligence are going to, at some point, really replace pilots, but until then, they're going to augment them, as we've been saying. But again, now we have the situation where a human is going to take on a machine for the first time in actual, virtualized combat. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, Carissa.
It's pretty interesting, and I think it's important too, but then it begs the question later on. Obviously, that is the path we're going down, where you could be replacing people with AI, especially in war scenarios, because it's going to limit the casualties to, humanity if we do get into something big like that. But even still, at what point, get that even deeper, and what point do the machines start controlling themselves? And they're military machines already, so they already have guns on them, so they already have the advantage. So, what are we going to do about that?
I like how you immediately jump to, when are they going to start controlling themselves? And when are they going to fight for them? When is the Republic of the Computer going to rise up and challenge us all? I will say, though, that it's... War has one of the biggest deterrents for war. War is going to change immensely. And the big change here is that one of the biggest deterrents is that you have to send, let's take World War II, for instance, where you have 1.3 million people die, or I should say 1.3 million Americans died due to, I have my comma wrong. 133,000 Americans died in World War II. one of the big deterrents for all-out war and why we don't just go around pushing over other countries, there are lots of reasons, don't get me wrong, to not be warmongers, but one of the biggest reasons is that, hey, people will die. You know, your citizens, you are asking people to go into harm's way. And when you take that out, when you can just send over machines and robots and artificial intelligence and self-guided missiles and so on and so forth, when you take the human danger and when you take the human element out of your side, where you're not really risking anything and you are systematically destroying the enemy, that is a very dangerous road to kind of go down, because again, none of the risk and all of the reward of, you know, kind of taking out another person in combat. So
Right.
it's dangerous, and you're right, that is a slippery slope. Not one that we really like to talk about too much, because don't get me wrong, talking about video games is much more fun, but these are implications that are undoubtedly going to come up. I think that there's already been some United Nations talk about banning unpiloted and artificial intelligence and robots actually making the final judgment to pull the trigger, launch the missile, do whatever. Automated systems, I think, are already not allowed to engage an enemy, but clearly there's going to be more to it, because again, you can't just have an algorithm decide whether or not a building, a person, whatever gets destroyed. You know, humans are still needed very much in that. So
Right. But I'm also wondering too, is like, you know, hypothetically, let's say two countries go to war and they both have the same thing. Obviously, if the human element's taken out of it, how far are we willing to go? Are we willing to level whole cities if they're empty? Are we willing to, you know, take down entire infrastructures if there's nobody around? Like, where's the end point if it's not human casualty? You know,
humans are still going to live places. You're right. I mean, humans are still going to. I honestly, I think that if conflict did have to happen, and if all that was destroyed were missiles and planes and drones and empty bases, you know, that's actually a great alternative to war. If no casualties happened, if no lives were lost on either side, and it was more of a flex, I guess, to say, you know, who has the strongest military might, who has the smartest machines, who has the smartest robots, but yeah, you know, we don't always employ them just against other non-living targets. So let me go ahead and circle back around here. Again, the whole point of this article is that on the 18th, if you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for something to watch, this will be happening in next Tuesday. The Air Force is going to be challenging itself and DARPA with a dogfights between a human and an artificial intelligence pilot. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm excited to see if, you know, just like the old tale of, what was it, John Henry and the stake driving machine. Man versus machine has been a thing for a century. So this is just another extension of that. All right, Carissa, there's that story. Do you have one?
I do. It's this one, I think, from BBC is a good place to go. Is the U.S. about to split the internet?
Okay. You chose a very complicated article. I applaud you.
Kind of bit mixed in with the other one.
I know, but it's so we're only going to touch on this because the article is kind of long. But this goes on with U.S.-Chinese tensions. We just wrote an article up on Computer America. Got to self-promote. That article was about the whole thing with TikTok, and at the heart of TikTok, and what this is even, you know, kind of the next step in that conversation, is that the U.S., through Mike Pompeo in particular, he seems to be the most outspoken proponent of this, is talking about separating Chinese interest from the rest of the internet. And the trade tensions and the essentially trying to decouple the economy from China and the US. That is, again, such a large topic and such a complicated topic that I don't really feel comfortable talking about. But I do want to say that this idea that you cannot use apps from China, that's something that seems to be coming up more and more often. And if you've ever used anything from a Chinese if you've ever used anything from a Chinese company, then you would be affected by this. And Carissa, let's see, what would be one of the most popular Chinese companies that you probably dealt with? Tencent. Have you ever listened to, I don't know, music?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Universal Music, who owns the rights to countless songs. Tencent has like a 30% stake in it. You have companies like Activision Blizzard, and Tencent has taken like a 20% interest in it. League of Legends, Riot Games has been almost completely taken over by Tencent. Tencent owns so much of the modern music, entertainment, movies, video game market that they are just so hand in hand. You can't really split them because they've invested tens of billions of dollars into each other's economies. So when Mike Pompeo says that he wants to, and let's see, they have a quote here in the article saying that he wants to, he said he wants to remove untrusted applications from U.S. mobile app stores. People's Republic of China apps threaten our privacy, proliferate viruses, and spread propaganda and disinformation. As someone who follows the space very closely, true, mostly, but it's, I don't know. It seems so unlikely that we'll ever be able to really separate ourselves from China, and especially it's not going to happen overnight. Carissa, I know that's it's even I'm having trouble kind of explaining this, but could you ever see China and software and apps, and think about all the sellers on Amazon that are from China. Think about all the things on eBay from people and providers in China. Think about all of the raw materials and manufactured goods in China. I don't ever see us really, or it's going to take years to really, kind of break that bond.
I don't think that it's even possible at this point. We've been trading with China for so long, and at this point, we're a global economy. We're a global people. We have the internet. Everyone talks to everyone all the time. There's no way to untangle that at this point. And it would be stupid if they did, because then your quality of life in America, if we removed the access to Chinese goods, then the quality of life in America would drop as well. And also, it's an unpopular opinion, but Chinese people need to work too. And it wasn't the people that sent the jobs there, it was the corporations. So, they're still offering the jobs, and we're still doing the trading and all these things. It's also interconnected. I don't know if there's any way to do that. And it could just be the current establishment that wants to separate that for their own reasons,
You're right. It was corporations, and there was a lot of incentive. There was a lot of, jobs being sent overseas over the course of the 80s and 90s and of course 2000s, that it's going to take time to transition back to US based manufacturing. It's going to take time to kind of refocus everything. Apple in particular, they have been producing with Foxconn in China pretty much since their inception of the iPhone and even some of the iPods. And even they have started to say that I think they want like 30% of their manufacturing to happen in India in particular. We saw this happen with, of course, or I should say, a lot of this has to do with the political pressure, the coronavirus, which came out of Wuhan, China, which is a huge manufacturing hub. And we saw what happened when such a large place of manufacturing shut down. Having all of your manufacturing in the world focused on one country in one area, it's just not a good thing. It's putting all of your eggs in one basket. And it seems like a lot of these companies are starting to see the benefit of either bringing it back to the U.S., sending it to India, sending it to Mexico, sending it to any of these other countries. And we're seeing that pushback from China because up until now, it's been so non-competitive that if you want to make things, you make it in China because it's cheap, the labor's cheap, the manufacturing costs are cheap, and they can send it wherever you want it. That sentiment seems to be breaking. And again, to focus on this article here real quick about the applications, it's just like everything I just said, it's going to take time. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm not saying that that it's necessary, because honestly it probably isn't, but they do use some of these tactics. Of course, the US uses some of these tactics. Russia, Europe uses some of these tactics. I mean, it's the name of the game, and you can't really be mad that no country that wants to stay competitive is going to completely omit, oh, we're too good to advertise online. We're too good to offer our services online or make products and sell them to a global market. Okay, so all that being said, that's my long way of saying this seems to be a lot of posturing. There's been a lot of political tension between America and China, and this seems to be just a slightly further escalation. If things were at a 7, this knocks it right on up to like a 7.2. That's what I kind of get from it.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. But
yeah, there you go.
What makes it any different than, like if we ban all of these Chinese apps and stuff, what makes us any different than having our own firewall in America, but on your phone instead of the internet? Like that. That's not part of the whole freedom thing, right?
From a tech standpoint, there's also this idea that a lot of the privacy that we have established in non-Chinese apps, that is being challenged by now the U.S. government, who is looking for backdoors, looking to end end-to-end encryption. They're looking to have a lot of these VPN services be able to still track their users. Privacy is kind of the antithesis to a lot of the governments out there. But hey, yeah, China does some mess up stuff too. So, okay, let's transition away from that just a little bit. We have time for like 2 or 3 more stories, and we have tons of stories that we did not actually cover. I want to talk about this one real quick because it's pretty fast. Not a lot of meat to it, but there will be meat to it on August 31st. And this is from NVIDIA. If you're watching the video portion, they have a tweet. It's just simply ... hashtag ultimate countdown. And it was tweeted out by NVIDIA GeForce. It's a very beautifully rendered, almost like supernova type animation. It's only 8 seconds long, but they say that 21 days, 21 years, those are the numbers that they kind of included in the post. And it's something from their GeForce Twitter account. It's a short video. The banner image is the same, and it says that again, 21 days, 21 years, 21 days, of course, being August 31st. That's when the big announcement will happen. And they say that it will be the 21st anniversary of the very first GeForce GPU from NVIDIA. They say that it could be an anniversary celebration. However, rumors have been rumbling that NVIDIA will announce its GeForce 3000 series graphics card within the next month. So it would be it could very well be more hardware to show off in 3 weeks. So if you are a fan of the GeForce cards, the latest, of course, being the GeForce, the NVIDIA 2280, 2270, stuff like that. No, I'm sorry, the 2080. There we go. The 2080 Ti, stuff like that. Yeah, we could see new hardware in the coming weeks, and I always love new hardware because it's something that we can hold and that we can touch and talk about. So,
absolutely,
very cool.
That's gonna be good too.
I'm looking forward to that. Mark your calendars, August 31st. Okay, so of all these other articles, let's go ahead and talk about. Okay, here's one. People have been very obvious about this. Carissa, when was the last time you went to a mall? And I mean like a brick and mortar, multiple stores, large mall.
I actually went to one a few weeks ago because my friend needed some clothes for an interview. So I actually went recently, but there was no JCPenney.
Yeah, and JCPenney is one of the topics here, but I think that's actually an enduring example that malls are still relevant, even if they don't get the foot traffic that they need or that they once had to get people in, sell goods, sell products. And a lot of stores are declaring bankruptcy. You of course have your JCPenney, which declared bankruptcy and is being liquidated. Sears went out of business a long time ago. A lot of the huge anchor stores that happen to be in a lot of these spaces lost the economic battle to Amazon. Well, it turns out that much like a hermit crab that will devour its larger competitor, the hermit crab will then take over the shell of its former rival. And I think that analogy works pretty well because Amazon is thinking about taking over Sears and JCPenney and other anchor department stores, the ones with the massive amount of floor space, to offer Amazon services, to offer Amazon goods, to offer a lot of different products that they feel would be, I guess, beneficial to a short term, or I'm sorry, to have people walk in, which almost seems like, much like Walmart killing off brick and mortar stores and family owned establishments and then offering local goods. I feel like this is much the same thing. Amazon has destroyed a lot of brick and mortar stores, and now they are looking to, become the brick and mortar stores. So Simon is pursuing an acquisition of JCPenney, which would grant it more control over how the store spaces are used. And the deal could benefit Amazon by providing well-located warehouse space in cities across the U.S. and by allowing the online retailer to decrease its delivery times on shipments. So, Carissa, one more thing before I get your reaction, but people are wondering why, the point of Amazon was to have stuff delivered to your door. Why would people want to go to a mall to pick up the items that they ordered from Amazon? And the answer is that warehouses, they're probably not going to use them as strict warehouses and strict distribution centers, because warehouses are still like 5 times the size of your average JCPenney or whatever store. Like the square footage is just astronomical in those fulfillment centers. But what you could sell are things that that you want immediately. Let's say food from things like Whole Foods things like Whole Foods, things that are perishable, drinks, food. You could sell things that you would need immediately that people kind of want as fast as possible. They wouldn't use them as, a place to sell cabinets, but they would use them to sell shoes, clothes, medical supplies, food, things that you would want kind of immediately. So in that sense, it makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it's important sometimes because I personally have trouble buying clothes off Amazon because I'm very tactile. I got to touch it. I got to look at it. I got to try it on.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to walk into essentially JCPenney marked as, Amazon, it would be the same thing like going to JCPenney and touching all your clothes, except it's from Amazon. And I think it would be useful for having the smaller items like your foodstuffs and clothes and all that, but it's still effectively JCPenney because, like, let's say you've got an appliance section, you're still selling 5, 10, 15 different brands of this appliance anyway, which is no different from what JCPenney did anyway. So it's essentially they're just rebranding, it seems like, with this thing that they're doing here.
they're definitely taking over the floor space and becoming what it is that they first destroyed, which could work out very, very well for them. But Amazon, I think, is notorious for not having that brick and mortar. They're ethereal. Amazon is everywhere. Amazon is nowhere. But now looks like they're going to be, turns out they're going to be everywhere, not just nowhere. Very, very interesting. And I don't know, maybe malls are going to be slapped with Amazon logos all over them here in the near future. So, so Carissa, music in the background means that we are done for today. I want to thank you so much for, of course, co-hosting. And everyone, if this is your first show back, then hey, Carissa, she's our co-host, and she's going to be here for quite a while. Although, everyone, tomorrow's show, Carissa won't be here. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, computer and technology news. If you want to find out more, check out the website, computeramerica.com. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.